Chapter 22. Pursuant to the instructions of Miss Gladwell, Theo arrived at her office at 8:15 sharp on Monday morning. He sat across from her desk as he flipped through a file. She had yet to smile, as if still ticked off about the fight. "How was your weekend?" she asked, without the slightest hint of real interest. "Okay, I guess," Theo said. He was not there to talk about his weekend. They had other business. His weekend had been fairly lousy, and he now realized that his life would not return to normal until his good name was cleared. He was still the accused, which was a dark cloud hanging over his head. "Let's change the entry code to your locker," she said. This was why she wanted to meet early, before classes started. "Do you have a new code?" "Yes, ma'am. It's 529937. Lawyer." She wrote it down and then compared it to the other codes. "I guess this will work." Theo cleared his throat and said, "Miss Gladwell, I would like to say again how sorry I am for what happened last Thursday. You know, the fight and all. I broke the rules and I apologize. I expect better behavior out of you, Theo. I'm really disappointed and I want you to avoid any more trouble." "I will." To close the file and managed a slight smile. "Did you talk to the police about over the weekend?" she asked. "No, ma'am." Have they finished their investigation?" "I don't think so. As far as I know, they haven't caught the right people." "Do they still suspect you, Theo?" "As of last Friday, I was their main suspect." She shook her head in disbelief. Theo thought about Ike's advice, readjusted himself in the chair, cleared his throat, emitted an and give and gave the clear impression that what he was about to say was not easy. "Miss Gladwell, if you knew a student here, a seventh grader, had a cell phone on campus, what would you do?" She leaned back in the chair and chewed the end of her pen. "Well, I would talk to his or her homeroom teacher, ask her to approach the student, and if he or she had a phone, then we would confiscate it. The normal punishment is half day suspension in school." "Why do you ask this, Theo?" "Just curious." "No, you're not just curious. You know a seventh grader who brings a cell phone to school, don't you?" "Maybe." She stared at him for a long time, then began to figure it out. "Could the cell phone be stolen?" she asked. Theo nodded and said, "Could be. Not sure, but it could be." "I see. And could the stolen phone be linked to the break in at Big Mac's last week?" Theo nodded slightly and said, "Could be. I don't know for sure, and I'm not accusing anyone of the theft." "The break in is one thing, Theo, and it's really none of my business. The police are in charge of that. But the possession of a cell phone by a seventh grader is a violation of the rules here on my turf. Let's deal with that first." Theo stared at her but said nothing. Another long pause. Miss Gladwell waited and waited. She finally looked at her watch and said, "Okay, if you want me to help you, give me the name. If not, it's Monday morning and I have 1,000 things to do." "I feel like a snitch," Theo said. "First of all, Theo, he or she will never know you told me. Second, and much more important, you're the prime suspect in a crime that someone else committed. If I were you, I would do everything I could to find the real criminal. Now give me the name or go to homeroom." Trying to appear reluctant, Theo said, "Jonah Finn." Ike had said he had no choice but to deliver the criminal. The 8:50 bell rang for first period, and Mr. Krauthammer dismissed his seventh grade homeroom. As the boys were filing out of the room, he took a few steps toward a desk, placed his hands on the shoulder of Jonah Finn, and said, "Could I see you a minute?" When the room was empty, Mr. Krauthammer closed the door and said, "Did I see you with a cell phone in the hall about 10 minutes ago?" He, in fact, did not, but this was part of the strategy. "No," Jonah snapped. He took a step back and looked thoroughly guilty. "What's in your pockets?" Mr. Krauthammer asked, stepping toward him. Jonah reluctantly removed his cell phone and handed it over. A half-day suspension would not bother him. He had seen worse. Mr. Krauthammer looked at the phone, an XL7 smartphone, and said, "Very nice. Come with me." After a brief meeting with Miss Gladwell, Jonah was taken to a small study room in the library, where he would be confined for the next 4 hours under the watchful eyes of Miss Dunleavy, the librarian. His books were placed on a study table as if he were expected to plow through some extra homework as part of his punishment. Instead, Jonah put his head on the table and promptly went to sleep. Miss Gladwell called Detective Warman and gave him the registration number of the cell phone. At Strattonburg High School, second period ended at 10:30 and was followed by a 20-minute break. Tony Lambert, Woody's brother, tracked Jesse Finn from a distance and watched as he left the main building and walked into the large open courtyard where many of the students killed time on break and during lunch. Jesse sat by himself at a picnic table and was about to check his cell phone when Tony came out of nowhere. "Hey man, I hear you got some O4 tablets for a good price," Tony said, glancing around as if a drug deal was in process. Jesse eyed him suspiciously and said, "Who are you?" "Tony Lambert, 10th grade," he replied, shoving a hand forward. Jesse took it reluctantly and asked, "Oh yeah? Where did you hear that?" "Word gets around. How much are you asking?" "For what?" "For an O4. I got $50. "Who told you I was selling something?" "Come on, Jesse. Word gets around. I really want that tablet." "I don't have anything, man. I already sold it." "Can you get another one?" "Maybe, but the price has gone up. $75. "I can get 75. When can you get the tablet?" "Here, tomorrow. Same time, same place." "You got it." They shook hands and Tony left. He walked inside the main building and sent a text to Woody. "No deal, maybe tomorrow." Theo's Monday morning had been uneventful. During homeroom, Mr. Mount made a big deal of welcoming him and Woody back to school, and there were some smart comments from his classmates. Most, though, seemed to be proud of their two buddies for not being afraid to take a stand. In period Spanish, Madame Monique asked Theo how he was doing and seemed a little too concerned about him. He brushed it off and said everything was fine. In second period geometry, Miss Garman as- acted as though nothing had happened, which suited Theo just fine. During the morning break, April informed Theo that Rodney had passed along the news that Jonah Finn had been in homeroom, but then disappeared. Rodney did not know where he was. While Jonah was napping in the library study room, Detective Warman arrived at the school and met with Miss Gladwell. The two of them casually walked to the row of seventh grade lockers, not far from Theo's, as he punched in the code for Jonah's. Inside, they found the usual assortment of textbooks, notebooks, supplies, and junk. Hidden in a three-ring binder were two brand new Lynx O4 tablets. They took them back to our office where Detective Warman, using rubber gloves, removed the back panels and wrote down the registration numbers. They then returned to Jonah's locker and carefully placed the tablets in the three-ring binder. Detective Warman thanked Miss Gladwell, left the school, and went to his desk at the police station, where he checked the registration numbers against the list from Big Mac Systems. Not surprisingly, they matched. He reported his findings to Detective Hamilton, and they decided to get a search warrant for the Finn home. Foreman filled in the blanks of a standard affidavit, a sworn written statement, and set forth the details of what he had found. He also included a statement that the subject's brother, Jesse Finn, had allegedly attempted to sell a Lynx O4 tablet to a classmate the previous week. Once the affidavit was completed and signed by Detective Warman, he prepared a two-page search warrant in which he described the area he wished to search, the Finn home and its outbuildings. With his paperwork done, he walked 4 blocks down Main Street to the courthouse and left the affidavit and search warrant with the secretary for Judge Daniel Showalter Youth Court Division 1. The secretary informed him that the judge was in the middle of a hearing and it might be 2 hours before he could review the affidavit and search warrant. Detective Warman walked back to his office, confident he had solved another crime, though a rather small one. He would have preferred to spend his time chasing drug dealers and serious criminals. That's the end of chapter 22.